Hi, welcome to the last episode in the first season of Grow Your Tutoring Business podcast. Today, you've got a special guest to hear from who's Jean Clayton, who's been tutoring for over 20 years now. I've just proclaimed her the SLT of the tutoring world. The story that Jean shares with us is going to debunk a lot of myths about what we need to have in place for us to have a successful tutoring business. Jean's made a success of her business over the last 24 years and created the life that she wanted. Get ready to take some notes because what Jean's got to share, lots of words of wisdom, and there's so much to learn. In fact, even after I press stop on the recording, we continue to talk for a further half an hour more, and I'm ready to have a part 2 with Jean really soon to share some more of the words of wisdom that she shared with me off screen. Get ready, guys. This is amazing. Over to you, Jean. Right, Jean, thank you so much for giving up your time to come and share your story of tutoring. We've just had a quick chat off screen. I'm so excited to share your story with the community because I feel that a lot of people come to me and say, Rich, I just need to have this in place before I start, or if only I could just get this in the business and I'll be able to make a go of it and I'll be able to sort of earn more money each month and just make a real good go of the tutoring business. I feel like you're going to be the debunk of the myths, basically, Jean. So I'm really excited for you to share your story. So let's get started straight away. Tell us a little bit about your journey into the tutoring world. What happened? Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I'd been teaching where I lived previously a little bit, been doing some supply work. There wasn't enough work to make a living. Then moved to Shropshire. And again, I've got by this time 2 little girls, babies really. And I would have had to pay for childcare, and there wasn't enough supply work going. I couldn't see a full-time job about. So I carried on doing odd jobs and things, telesales, anything that came up, anything legal. And eventually my daughter got to 9 years old and she said, I want to go to the grammar school. And I said, okay, we need to do some work. So I got some books for her and we sat down, and it didn't work because I think you always know what your own child is capable of, and she wasn't doing it. I don't think they ever do. So I had a friend whose daughter was the same age and she was having the same problem. My friend was training to be a maths teacher. And so what we used to do was on a Tuesday, we'd take our girls to school, and then my friend would come home with me, have a cup of coffee, and I'd teach her the lesson for the evening. And we swap girls in the evening and we work
Oh,
with each other's
wow.
kids. Worked great.
Just kind of like mutual agreement,
Yeah,
like just between the two of you, just helping. That's amazing. What a great way to start. Really positive.
really worked.
Yeah.
Anyway, my daughter got to the high school. I have to say the other one didn't, because
Okay.
she didn't fill anything in on the form. She didn't want to go to the high school. She was perfectly capable, but
Oh,
the comprehensive school had a very good music department, and she wanted to go there, so she didn't fill the forms. She didn't
so
fill
she
anything
forced
on
her
it at
way
all.
there. That's amazing. What? That's incredible. How old? How old are these girls now?
36.
Okay.
They're still in touch now and again. They were never
Yeah.
best friends or anything, but they're
Yeah.
still in
Yeah.
touch. They actually went to the same university and were a quarter of a mile from each other on the campus.
How weird.
Completely different. However, once I'd done that, other people said, well, can you tutor my son? Can you tutor my daughter? And I thought, okay, I'll give it a go.
Mm.
Um, so I was doing that and started to get paid a little bit for it. Thought, actually, this isn't too bad.
Mm.
And it just built up from there, word of mouth. I've never, ever advertised, not once. The nearest I got to advertising was an interview in the parish magazine, which covers, 10,000 people at the most, you know.
Wow, no, but that's still quite a big reach. That's still pretty good.
Yeah, but it's only, you know, in terms of households, that's not that many.
No, yeah, true, yeah, because they're not all going to be families, are they, either?
No.
And at the right age, yeah.
But that was just a favour for somebody that wanted to fill something in the parish magazine, fill a gap.
Yeah.
And it's just built up from there and
Okay.
just gone on and on. Originally, I was doing face to face. I was going to the children's houses.
Yeah.
Involved a lot of driving because Shropshire's a very spread out sort of an area.
Okay.
Don't like driving.
Mm.
And so I was working first thing in the morning, starting at 7 before the children went to school, worked till 8 or whenever they had to go to school, and then start again in the evening, do 3 lessons in the evening. Saturdays off and work most of Sunday.
So you would do about 3 sessions in the evening as well.
Yeah,
So you would do like maybe a session in the morning,
yeah,
7 till 8-ish, until they go to school. And then what would you do? Like a 4 till 7 type
yeah.
approach in the
Four
evening?
o'clock,
Okay.
5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, depending on traveling distance. Sometimes it moved on a quarter of an hour, half an hour, depending on
Yeah,
traffic.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think I similar the way that I started when I was doing Sundays all day and then started filling in some in the evenings. I had about 2 hours, but often you'd be gone for three because by the time
Yeah,
you've driven somewhere and come back again.
yeah.
So did you change that, Jean? Did you end up having
Well,
people come to you?
I can't do that because there is a bylaw where I live that says you can't run a business from home. And
Okay.
apparently, tutoring is included.
Oh,
So
really? Yeah.
when COVID hit, I turned to online,
Yeah.
started with Zoom, and I have to say it was pretty much a failure because a lot of my students are kids who live with one parent or the other, and there wasn't a computer at the other house,
Okay.
or they go to grandma's for childcare and there's no computer. So we went to WhatsApp and we've done it ever since. And I know it sounds very basic, but it works.
So when you're doing it on WhatsApp, you do a video call
Yeah.
and you
And
just do it like that.
yeah, and some places parents transfer it onto a laptop or an iPad, and sometimes kids use a phone. But
Yeah.
it's very flexible because everybody has a box file with all their stuff in it. And wherever they're going to be, they take the box file that day, open the lid, my phone number's inside it, no problem.
That's amazing. Do you know what? Interestingly, I have done one over Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp before, but never carried it on because I always preferred Zoom.
Yeah,
But WhatsApp's an amazing resource because you can send files, send
yeah.
pictures. I know you can annotate as well, which might be useful for some, but I'd never really thought about going all in on something like that.
Well, our internet signal is very poor where I live, and Zoom's holding out at the moment, but busy times in the evening, it cuts out, cuts out, cuts out. But
Okay.
WhatsApp does tend to keep going for some reason.
Yeah. I'd imagine, I'm not going to get too technical, but I imagine it's something to do with how they control the quality
Yeah,
of the video so they can just up and
I don't know.
upscale and downscale it. But that's incredible. So again, I just want to like touch on a few points. So the first one is that we're talking about a tutoring business that doesn't advertise,
No,
doesn't have a place online anywhere for people to find,
no,
but it's been successful, doesn't use Zoom, but has moved away from what I would see like the mainstream way of teaching online and found a way to use it with WhatsApp.
yeah,
That's what an amazing and also look, it's like resourcefulness, isn't it? It's actually saying, well, look, this way's not working, but we still need to find a way, and this will be okay. That's incredible. I love that. And actually, just thinking about the versatility of WhatsApp has got me thinking that's such a good idea. I absolutely love it. It would be so easy just to drop a file in,
yeah.
follow up with a call. They can download it. And I don't know whether anybody knows this that it's changed the way that I work during the day, especially. But WhatsApp, because you can have a desktop version of it, you can have all of your files in there really quick, because otherwise you might have to have stuff open on your phone. But it's changed the way that I work during the day, but I'd never thought about using it for tutoring. It's never even entered my head. So that's amazing, Jean. So how long, so you started this journey, like it starts off with you switching children with someone so that you can tutor, and you've switched responsibilities, because as we all know, teaching your own children is hard work. You know, they don't like it, we tend to not like it either. It doesn't go so well. And then other people find out, okay, this is the start of your tutoring business. How long did it take for you to see it as a full-time income?
Probably about 3 years before it really became full-time.
I think
I
that's
was
fair.
doing quite a lot, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to be full-time until about 3 years.
When you first started, how much were you charging per session?
Oh, absolute fortune, £15.
But like, if we go back then, so how many years ago was that, Jean?
Yeah, over 24 years ago.
Right. So I mean, in actual fact, like if you think about where people start today, like most would go, I just charge £25 an hour.
Yeah.
So if you started at £15 24 years ago, probably just about marries up, doesn't it? About the same kind of rate, really.
Yeah.
And so if you were earning, let's say you had all 4 sessions every day, plus you worked all day on a Sunday, that's not too bad of an income, is it? If every session is full.
It got
And
us by anyway. It got us by.
yeah, sure. And so did you then stop your other jobs when that happened? Did you then
Yeah,
stop
I
everything else?
just gradually phased everything out. Everything was temporary. It
Yeah.
was friends saying, "Can you do a bit of telesales for me? Um, oh, can you do just odd little things all the time?" And I was able just to gradually, when that came to an end, not take another one on.
Do you think that any of that experience helped you when you were reaching out to people? I mean, I'll say you probably didn't do a lot of reaching out, because I imagine you've built pretty much 100% by word of mouth.
Yeah,
So we have this transfer of trust from one family to another, and they're like, "Oh no, Jean's amazing. Go and speak to Jean." Do you think any of your past experiences, like through the telesales and your other odd jobs, has helped with your skill set in terms of managing and communicating with parents and families?
definitely the telesales.
Mm.
Definitely telesales, because I wouldn't do telesales for anything I didn't believe in. So if
That's
if
interesting.
they were selling something I thought was rubbish, I wasn't going to sell it.
You were out of there. You were like, "No, I can't do it."
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think because I was used to convincing people and explaining how it works and that sort of thing,
Mm.
I think that does help a lot.
I was listening to Stephen Bartlett, who's like a young entrepreneur. He's on Dragon's Den. Do you know Stephen Bartlett? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking to someone on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that the best thing he did between the age of 16 and 20 was working telesales.
Yeah.
It's because you have to, we sell things all the time. Like it's just it's a natural sense. If you're a class teacher, you're selling your lesson. If you're a head teacher, you're selling your school. And obviously, I'm keeping it within the realms of education, but essentially, you're constantly selling yourself. And
Yeah.
if you're not good at communicating and selling, you're going to find life in general quite hard. Like there's going to be times when you're going to want to
Yeah.
develop those skills, and there might be times when you feel better at it and not. But the big thing, and this is where I completely relate to this, is if you have a shared purpose or you understand something and you really believe in it, you'll drive it better. It will come naturally to you,
Mm.
which was one of the big reasons why I left teaching,
Yeah.
because I didn't quite believe in it anymore. I don't quite believe in the way that it's going. And it's really hard to sell something if you don't really believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
we can all have a bigger purpose. Like, yeah, I want to help children grow up and be a good part of society and be able to contribute in positive ways. But I also didn't want to see them as a number and as a someone's about to take an assessment and we need to get them to a certain point. What we need to do is give the children what they need. And that was a really big thing for me. I know it's really easy to say, I want to get out of teaching, but it's much harder to actually take the actions to do it. Which is why when you say, I've got no website, I don't have anywhere online for people to find me, but it still works and it's still a success. That's what I want people to grab a hold of from this. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jean. It's such an interesting and different type of conversation than what I usually have, so I really like it. When you first started out, I mean, lots of us get obsessed with the bells and whistles of the business, like a logo, like a website, like all of those other things that we feel like we need to have, which I'm going to guess you don't, and you didn't, and you never have.
Nothing.
But were there any other surprises along the way? So when you started and people started coming towards you more, was there anything that you realised you desperately needed to have in place so you could run it in the way that you wanted?
In a way, no. No, it just gradually developed and things got put in as I went along.
So the things that you put in, like, because I mean, I'm looking at what you offer. So Key Stage 2, lots of 11 plus prep, with years 4, 5, and 6. What do you use the most? What because you've also going to backtrack a tiny bit. You have written your own exam papers.
Yeah, I write my own exam papers.
Is that for 11 plus?
Yeah, specifically for this area. They do CEM here.
So not only, so in terms of where you started and where you are now, did you buy things, like you said you bought books like for your daughter, was that the kind of things you used in the start? And then did you like just gently move away towards your own exams?
I also, I write my own exams, and we have an exam week once a year for the ones who are taking exams. And we also do the odd occasional evening or afternoon when we do just one exam. But I still use bond books as a foundation and then work out from there.
Okay. In the CEM, do they still do non-verbal reasoning?
They do.
Do you make your own non-verbal reasoning?
Nope, because I can't. I'm hopeless at 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional. So I do buy them in, and I do pay for those, and I buy a book per child for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's where I struggle with as well, Gina. When I first started, I'm about 5 years into my journey with, I live in Kent, so it's Kent test, but it's still 11 plus essentially, but it's GL, so different examiner. And they are both, pretty similar. And there are just slight nuances with how they do the maths and the English. And I think there's a few different verbal reasoning questions as well, but essentially they're very similar processes. I can write my own English. And I've written some maths, not a lot, but some maths. But I struggle with working out how to approach the non-verbal. And I've researched it and looked at it, and I'm not. I think it's easier to just go, do you know what? Someone else is doing it, and it's fine, and it works. I buy it in.
I actually don't teach 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional. I have 3 of my ex-students who will do it for me.
Well, that's another question. So, Jean, look, you are. I won't introduce you as this, and I might even cut this out, Jean. But I feel like you are now the SLT of us tutors. Okay, you're going to be the word of wisdom for us. So you are obviously a tutor, and you've made a success of it over the last 20 years plus. Do you have other people work for you now? Is that where you're at with your business?
Not officially. I have 3 of my still teenage students, young teenagers, who will do these non-verbal lessons for me online, and they get a £5 for doing it. They don't necessarily do an hour's lesson. They do what they feel they can cope with on that day. Okay. They're absolutely delighted to get a £5.
And it works I bet they are. Yeah, it's a really nice model, actually. Yeah, that you get past students to come and help you out, particularly because you already know them and there's a lot of trust there already. I've been working with another tutor, trying to start some GCSE groups or one-to-ones even, just want to be able to offer but I couldn't do it. So I'd like to have someone come on board. And one of the barriers to that is trust. Like, how do you recruit someone who potentially you're going to then put in front of children and families who have trusted you to deliver that service? And it's a big dilemma that particularly if you're new to it and you've not done it before, it takes a little bit of I suppose accepting the risk that's attached to it. But when you can control one of those variables, which is, I know these children and these young people, and they're going to be absolutely fine, and you know their personality, kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It does make sense. Mine aren't old enough yet, Jean. I've got to wait a few more years. But I we're definitely going to copy that without a doubt. I think that's an amazing way to, well, it keeps it in the community as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah. The teenagers love it. And the way they start off is it's parent to parent, not child to child.
Okay.
So the teenager's parent speaks to the student's parent first and sorts out times and things. So they're fairly safe doing that.
That's not, and so when we're talking teenagers, are you saying sort of 16, 17, or is it younger?
Oh no, younger.
Younger.
Ones I've got at the moment are 12 and 13, would you believe?
That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. So do you know what? Weirdly, I've got two names in my head already who I tutored about 3 years ago, who were basically telling me how to do the non-verbal in a quicker way, because they just got it. I'd love to get them on board. I'd love to get them on board.
It's such a fun thing to do. And they'll call me with reports of how the child's going. I get feedback from students' parents, how they're getting on. It's great.
Yeah. I loved your response to the question, like, if I gave you £100, what would you spend it on? And you really did buck the trend again, Jean. And the reason I love it is because you went straight for self-care. And I feel like we ignore that in ourselves a lot. So you said, probably getting my hair done because I'd like to look smarter when I'm tutoring. And why not, right? Go and get your hair done, spend some of that cash and make yourself, feel better. And, if we look smart, we just come across better, don't we, right? Just how it works. So I love that answer. Are you quite big on self-care? Is that something you've kind of taken?
Not especially. So it's the luxury.
Yeah.
If I do that. So
okay.
Yeah.
What would you do outside of tutoring for fun? What would you be doing?
To be honest, I don't do a lot.
Is that it though? Is that the relaxation part, Jean, or is there like not a lot?
I just really enjoy the tutoring. I keep in touch. Well, lots of the families I've tutored for keep in touch.
Yeah.
Got a big circle of friends.
Okay.
Big family. Although I've only got 2 children, my husband has a massive family, second marriage.
Yeah.
And it's all family and friends and people.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So that's like living the dream, right? So has the tutoring given you freedom over the years? Is it something that's kind of Yes,
nice. It's a bit of independence. And to be honest, if I don't want to work, not that it happens very often, but if I don't want to work some days in a week, I just book some days off.
Living the dream, Jean. You're living the dream.
It's easy. I don't have many holidays, but parents are very good if I need to take time off. So
yeah. So it's given you. So let's just recap a little bit about what the business side's given to you. Like obviously the tutoring is something you love, and you've been able to grow it to a point where even employing other people, even like young teenagers, and giving them some responsibility, which is amazing. It's also given you freedom in your life, but also it's choices, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Need some time off, take some time off. Yeah. If you were to go on holiday, you could just go on holiday. There's flexibility, isn't there, in running your business? Yeah. What I try to preach and try to show people is that what we don't want to do is move away from this very stressful environment of teaching where there is no time, and then create another job, business, where we do exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to put, well, I believe, this is obviously just my opinion, that if there are things in your life that you want to be doing more of, you have to make them front and center. So like from your perspective, it's, you've got a large family that you can spend time with, and a large group, a circle of friends who you want to spend time with and be around. And your life now has enabled that to happen more than what it would have done previously. And that's surely the aim.
Yeah. I just think it's the thing I really enjoy doing is the tutoring. And I like the successes. With one family, a very poor family, came to me very early on, and virtually no money, very poor English because they're immigrants, and worked with all three children right from being about 7, 8 years old, the youngest one, and actually started with the very oldest one at 8 years old. They wanted him to go to grammar school. They didn't know what a grammar school was, but they wanted him to go there because they'd heard of it and they thought it was good.
Yeah, sure.
And he's now a doctor.
Wow.
His sister is an optometrist, and the younger one is training to be a dentist.
Wow.
And they've come up from virtually not speaking English. The boy, when I first had him, could write his name and he could count to 10 in English.
Yeah. And so you kind of, you take that journey, don't you, with the child as well? Like, and I know it's different. I don't know. I suppose in my head, what I tend to do with all children, but I think more so now tutoring, because you get to know, I think you get to know them better than what I did a classroom child. Even though I had good relationships with children in school, but it's almost like in my head, I'm like, I can see their potential path that they could go down. And when I've been teaching just over 10 years. So some of the ones I first started are now just coming out of uni, but they've still not got the jobs, and I don't know where the career path's going. But when you can follow that and you know you've been a part of it, that's where the motivation and drive comes from for tutoring, isn't it? And it is a different relationship when you're tutoring compared to being in the classroom. I think that's a lot stronger. It's definitely a more personal relationship, and it's still professional, but it's still a little bit more personal. When you can share
you can get to know the
like
families as well as the student.
But I think I was writing a funny sentence on the board and saying about, oh, somebody saw Mrs. Cooper at Sainsbury's. And then one of the kids said, oh, yeah, I saw a teacher in Sainsbury's once. Oh, it was really embarrassing and I didn't like it. I wouldn't talk. And I was like, oh, sometimes I walk down the street and I do see children I used to teach, and they'll do that whole like, oh, try and hide. But my tutoring students don't.
No, they run up to you.
Yeah, they do. And they say, oh, Mr. C, how you doing? We have a bit of a conversation. And it's like it's a very different relationship. And I suppose it is more personal, but still professional. Whereas at school, there's still that authority, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's strange. Who have been the inspirational people who have sort of kept you going in your life, like from past or present, really? Who've had a big influence?
Well, strange enough, this Indian family that I taught early on, they've stayed with us. My husband was also a tutor at one time, well, a very long time actually, but he wasn't originally living here. He was living in Milton Keynes, and we were friends, and he used to come and see me sometimes. That's things moved on from there, and he came to help me with this family because they wanted some subjects I wasn't great at, and as they got older, I don't do secondary. So he'd done secondary teaching quite a lot, so he was able to help them. And that family have just moved themselves up from being in a really tatty, rundown council house to having their own house. The children two graduated, one will graduate, all gone to grammar schools. And the dad is actually my husband's best friend in all the world.
Oh, wow.
They will do anything for each other.
Yeah, that's a really positive story. Yeah, it's amazing. So really, Jean, do you tend to take inspiration from the people around you that you're supporting? Like, it's not even just having like outside influences. That's really special. I like that. And that's almost born out of the fact that you can make a difference in people's lives, which is really positive.
It just makes it fun.
Yeah. Right, very last question, Jean. If you could give some advice to some of our either teachers who are thinking about tutoring or tutors who are brand new, what advice would you give them?
I would say just go for it. Obviously, if you're still teaching, take the odd child first while you're still teaching to see if you like it, iron
Mm,
out the problems, and then just go for it. You
yeah,
don't need to do fantastic technology if you don't want to or are not able to. Just do it. Do it the way that suits you best. My way suits me. It won't suit everybody, but just do it. And then
wise
add in
words.
what you need as you need it.
Yeah, amazing. Jean, thank you so much for sharing your story and those wise words at the end. And I hope people can connect with your story because, like I said at the beginning, we don't need to have flashy things. We don't need to have lots in place for us to go and make a go of it. And if you're ready and you know that perhaps your teaching career is coming to an end because you don't want to carry on in the way that you're working, or perhaps you're just beginning out your tutoring journey, but something's holding you back, what Jean's telling you is go and have a go. Go and give it a go. Don't hold yourself back. Just go for it and see what happens. Because you could be sat here 25 years later going, oh my God, that's helped me create the life that I wanted. Yeah, amazing. Jean, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving
Thank
me your
you.
time. I hopefully will catch up. Keep in the group. Keep giving advice, please. People will listen. People will appreciate it.
Thank you very much indeed.
No worries. Thank you.